Hey everybody, Dylan here. In this video, I'm going to make an iOS tutorial for beginners. So, in this tutorial, we're going to cover all the things that you need to know in order to design a project that you can either show to employers or successfully do take-home projects or interview questions when employers do call you back and they do those little code tests for you. So what this is going to be a little bit of a series where we're going to talk about one concept at a time in each video. The reason for making this is because I do believe that, you should absorb things in bite-sized chunks instead of absorbing things all at once. So in this tutorial, what we're going to talk about is how to implement a table view. Now, why is a table view important? A table view is extremely important because this is the basis of an iOS app. Most things that you see on your phone right now is probably going to be in a table view. So example, your messages, your mail app, they're all in a table view. The Notes app is in a table view. This is why it is so important that you understand how to work with and use and implement a table view. So that's what we're going to cover in this video here today. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to head over to Xcode. Obviously, if you're an iOS developer, you're going to need a Mac. There's no way around it. You can use a simulator, but again, that's too much of an issue, especially with the prices of Macs nowadays. It's worth it to get a Mac and not have to deal with the extra go-ahead in order to do that. So all I did here was I went to New, and I went to Project, and I'm over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an app, and so for this series we're going to work with the interface builder or storyboards or UI kit instead of doing Swift UI. So you have two options here. You have storyboard or you have Swift UI. If you guys are interested in a video about Swift UI and doing these same things in Swift UI, let me know in the comments section below. But I believe that storyboards is a little bit more beginner friendly. So what we're going to name it YouTube tutorial, right? And we're not going to use core data, and we're not going to do any XC tests in this case. Although these concepts are pretty important, so we're going to do those and talk about those in a future video. So I'm going to create a directory in my downloads folder, and I'm going to head straight to the main. So this is going to be our interface builder. This is what we're going to be working out of. And we're going to work at it side by side with the view controller here, right? You're going to add files here. You're going to make changes here. But overall, you're going to basically work mostly with the interface builder. So the first thing to do is to find your table view, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to head to the plus button over here. And we're basically going to search your table view, right? Going to add that, and what we're going to do is we're going to select the table view. I'm going to go here, and we're going to add some constraints. So I'm going to go 0, 0, 0, and 0. Add 4 constraints. Now it takes up the entire screen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to my prototype cells, and I'm going to increment that by 1, right? You can add more, but 1 is pretty much the only thing that's necessary. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over here to the address editor options, and we're going to click on the assistant here, right? What this is going to do is going to have the code side by side with the interface builder, right? So what's the first thing that we're going to do to create this iOS app here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control, I'm going to click the table view, and I'm going to drag it to my code here inside of my code definition. What this is going to do is it's going to create something called an IB outlet. Now, basically, in layman's terms, what an IB outlet is it basically connects the elements that you create in your interface builder with the code here. That's how I would best explain this, right? So you're going to see a bunch of options here. You're going to see UI table view, that's the only option. You're going to have an outlet collection, which is not going to be relevant in this video, but it will be in a future video, and I'll explain that at that point, right? And then you have strong storage and weak storage. So basically, weak versus strong, basically you want to make sure that you mitigate your retained cycles, which is going to be a concept that I talk about in future videos, so stay tuned for that. But you want to prevent that, because what strong and weak pointers is also another interview question, is retained cycles increase the likelihood that your app is going to crash. So obviously you want to avoid that as much as possible. So it's best, especially with your IB outlets, to always set it to weak. So with that being said, we're gonna create our table view here, and now we want to populate our table view with data, basically. Because here's the thing, if I run this right now, even though in our interface builder I see a prototype cell here, I actually don't see anything over here, right? So how do we change that? How do we put values inside of our table view? That's what we're going to discuss right now. So I'm going to get rid of the simulator over here. So what I want to do is I want to create a new protocol, which is basically going to be these things over here. And what a protocol is, it has a bunch of methods here that you could use. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what protocols are all about. So Apple has a shitload of protocols that they have that you can use over here. So you have your class here, and when it conforms to this protocol, you're able to use any of these options that Apple provides. Now you can obviously implement your own protocols, which I'm going to cover in a future video, but that's something that you want to keep in mind. This is what a protocol is all about. So there's two ways to implement these protocols. Is you can either, the most important ones that we're going to use for this table view tutorial here, is it's going to be UI table view delegate and UI table view data source, right? So you can use these in the class, but what I like to do personally is I like to put them in an extension, because it makes the code just a little bit more readable, and that's going to give you points when you're building this for a project, right? So I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to put in an extension, right? An extension is just a way for you to make your code a little bit more readable. It's basically the same function. So what it's going to do is it's going to yell at you saying it doesn't conform to the protocol UI table view data source, and I'm going to add my protocol stubs. Now we're still missing one protocol stub here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the data source, jump to definition, and what we're going to do is we're going to look for number of rows at section, right? Which is over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste that. I'm going to go back into my extension, and I'm going to add that there. So for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to go with return 1, right? Obviously, this could change as you start to build out your function here, but we're going to work on the logic here. So what we're going to do is we're going to let cell is equal to table view dot dequeue reusable cell for with identifier for index path. Now you can see here that index path has already been defined over here. So we're going to mark it as index path, and we got to mark an identifier now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this cell very original, but that's what we're going to call this. And what we need to do is we need to go into the table view cell, and we need to set this identifier here so it knows what the identifier is called, right? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it a value, right? So we're going to say cell.text label We're going to make it an optional because it might not have any values here. Dot text is equal to here is a cell, right? And lastly, we're going to have a return value because we need to have a return value that is a form UI table view cell. So I'm going to call that cell, right? So if you're a little bit confused, what you can do is you can hold command and you can look at the information here. So this is basically something that you can go on the table view documentation and you can see here that it actually does return a UI table view cell, which is the required one that we need to do that over here, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to have two statements here. So I'm going to remove this do additional setup to after loading the view, and I'm going to do table view dot data source is equal to self, and we're going to do table view dot delegate is equal to self, right? So these are two very important things that you need to implement in order for the table view to actually show, right? So you want to make sure that you always have that whenever you're working with table views. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run it. And here is a cell. So now you have one cell of a table view, right? And I can do the same thing, and it's going to complain sig term because I ended it early. That's totally fine here, right? Let's just say that I had 10, right? If I had 10, I would run it again, build succeeded. So here's a cell, and you can see that I have 10 cells of a table view, right? So I'm going to click stop. Now, the question might be, what if I wanted to have values inside of my table view that are not here's a cell, here's a cell, here's a cell, right? So what I want to do is I want to define an array. So array is equal to, is this is going to be an array of strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not 6, but 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So let's say that we wanted to have this array and we wanted it to show up in our table view over here. So what do we do in this case? So what we want to do in order to modify it is we're going to go here, we're going to delete this here's a cell, we're going to do array index path dot row, right? And then we're going to return array dot count, right? So let's see what happens when we actually run this. So first I'm going to build it, and it succeeds, and I'm going to run it. So you can see here that I'm able to successfully display values inside of my table view, right? So that was a quick tutorial on how to implement a table view in iOS development. Stay tuned for the next video as I cover how to retrieve values from a JSON and display them in a table view. So thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this video. Make sure you leave me a comment, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe as it really helps support the channel and lets me know that you enjoy content like this. So without further ado, I'll see you on the next video.